Welcome back with another banger. It's the React Files. Hope you're having a good night. Let's get straight to it.
America. Cucumbers sold in 26 states and Canada have been recalled for possible salmonella contamination. We're having a real issue with salmonella contaminations. This is crazy. An Arizona company, Sun-Fed Produce, has recalled cucumbers sold in 26 states and in parts of Canada because they may be contaminated with salmonella. Now, Sun-Fed Produce of Rio Rico, Arizona is recalling American cucumbers sold between October 12th and November 26th. Sun-Fed Produce said that the recall was initiated after the good old FDA informed the company that the cucumbers sickened an unspecified number of people between October 12th and November 15th. Now, get this, the cucumbers were sold to companies that resell or redistribute produce to food service outlets and retailers, aka they went everywhere. As of Friday morning, neither Sun-Fed nor the FDA provided any additional information on what retailers or food service outlets might have sold or served the cucumbers. So here's about half the country that got these cucumbers. And it keeps going from Tennessee down to Wyoming. And they even went to Canada. So basically, guys, salmonella is a bacteria that can enter the food production chain when the process isn't sanitary and when workers handling food do not wash their hands. Symptoms are usually going to occur between 6 hours and 6 days. And you're going to feel diarrhea, fever, stomach cramps. So they're saying basically, if you bought these cucumbers or whatever, just throw them out. This whole salmonella thing's getting out of control.
So pretty much, people ain't washing their hands when they at work, going back on a line and handling these products. This is crazy. Cucumbers of all things. These days you gotta check everything in your refrigerator.
In the Apocrypha, there is a book called the Testament of Solomon. And in this book, Solomon describes how in the town there were some demons that were wreaking havoc on some people. They were stealing food. They were stealing money. So Solomon pleads with God to be given authority and power over these demons. God answers his prayer, sends the archangel Michael down with a ring. And when Solomon wears the ring, he is given authority over these demons, and he starts to line them up and talk to them one-on-one. Well, in Turkey, at an ancient military camp, they found an amulet that depicts this exact story. A 5th century amulet depicting the demon-fighting King Solomon, I'm actually going to read you parts of the story here in a second, has been found by archaeologists in Turkey, referencing a book banned from the Bible for including themes of dark magic. The amulet was found among the ruins of a military structure. You know what's fascinating to me? This is what they're just telling the public that they found. At an ancient military camp in Turkey where Noah's Ark is, where all of this other stuff is, I guarantee you that they found way more than just this amulet. And that's what makes me so mad with all of this archaeology stuff, is the entire world has the right to know about everything that is found because it is the entire world's history. All of this stuff is all of our history, and every single human being on this planet has the right to know about it. Just really quickly, this reminds me of this site, which is also in Turkey. This is called Göbekli Tepe, and these are actually the oldest ruins ever discovered. They predate Stonehenge. And once digging started, guess what the government did? They came in, put a complete halt to all excavations, and they actually postponed all digging for like 100 years or something. There were protests, there was media coverage. It was a huge ordeal because people were saying, like, this is the world's history. If this is the first civilization ever, we deserve to know what is in here, but nobody ever will. Okay, so back to the Testament of Solomon. So it says, Testament of Solomon, son of David, who was king in Jerusalem and mastered and controlled all spirits of the air, on the earth, and under the earth. By means of them, he also did all of the transcendent works of the temple. So Solomon had the fallen angels help build the temple, telling also of the authorities that wield against men, and by what angels these demons are brought to non-existence. Solomon actually lined these demons up and asked them individually what angel has authority over them, because God always has authority over Satan. So there's this little boy that is helping work on the temple, and Solomon loves this little kid dearly. So he's well fed, he's well paid. And then Solomon starts to notice that the boy's starting to get super skinny and he doesn't have much money. So Solomon asks him, he's like, hey, what's going on with you? And the boy tells him that when he falls asleep, there's a demon that comes and takes his food and takes his money. When I, Solomon, heard this, I entered the temple of God and prayed with all of my soul, day and night, that the demon might be delivered into my hands and that I might gain authority over him. And it came about through my prayer that grace was given to me from the Lord of hosts by Michael, his archangel. He brought me a little ring having a seal consisting of an engraved stone and said to me, "Take, Solomon, king, son of David, the gift which the Lord God has sent you, the highest host. With it you must lock up all demons of the earth, male and female, and with their help you will build up Jerusalem." Solomon actually gives the boy the ring and tells the boy, when the demon's coming at you, throw the ring at his chest, and in the name of the Lord, tell the demon that I am summoning him. And of course, the demon was pissed because he knows that Solomon has the power of God. And this passage, if you guys want to pause and read, tells us that not only is astrology demonic, but that demons can take whatever form they want. So Solomon assigned this demon to stone cutting for the temple, and he's pleading with Solomon. He's like, "Please let me go. If you do, I'll bring you all of the demons." So Solomon prays for help. The archangel Uriel comes down, and they actually summon the leader of the demons who had kingship over the demons. "And I summoned again to stand before me Beelzebul, the prince of demons. And I sat him down on a raised seat of honor and said to him, 'Why are you alone, prince of demons?' And he said to me, 'Because I alone am left of the angels of heaven that fell. For I was first angel in the first heaven, being entitled Beelzebul. And now I control all those who are bound in Tartarus. But I too have a child, and he haunts the Red Sea.'" So Solomon actually meets Lilith. And what's crazy to me is I have scrolled past videos on this app of people who are openly talking about how they serve Lilith. But Lilith goes on to tell Solomon that her goal is to take out babies during childbirth. So if you've ever wondered why certain things happen on this earth, you know, people out there, they blame God. There are demons assigned to very specific tasks. There's another part in this story where there's a demon that tells Solomon that he's assigned to newlyweds to break them up. So, you know, Satan hates us, and he's very cunning, he's very smart, and he has a lot of minions. He has a very vast army, and they are assigned to very specific tasks. Lilith is a horrendous spirit. She says, "For I have no work other than the destruction of children, and the making their ears to be deaf, and the working of evil to their eyes, and the binding their mouths with a bond, and the ruin of their minds, and painting of their bodies." Here's the awesome part though. "And I, Solomon, having heard this and having glorified the Lord, ordered her hair to be bound, and that she should be hung up for the front of the temple of God, and that all the children of Israel as they pass might see it and glorify the Lord God of Israel, who has given me this authority." I will warn you, if you do read this story, it does have a sad ending. King Solomon took all of these wives. Then he fell violently, quote, violently in love with one woman, and her people worship Moloch. So they said, if you want her, you got to sacrifice to Moloch. And he did. He actually surrendered to Moloch. "I then, wretch that I am, followed her advice, and the glory of God quite departed from me, and my spirit was darkened, and I became the sport of idols and demons." He said he wrote out the story as a warning to anybody who reads it to not do what he did. "Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." I want to remind everybody that demons have been watching you since you were born. They know you. They know your insecurities, they know your weaknesses, they know your weak spots, and they know where to target you and what to tempt you with. This is a very real spiritual battle on a second-by-second basis. And if you are not constantly connected with the God that overcomes evil, the one who died for you, you will lose this battle.
Hey, that just connected a lot of dots right there. Shout outs to Ashley Hayes 2.0, the Apocrypha Testament of Solomon. In this book, Solomon was forced to worship Moloch because he was violently in love. Moloch is connected to the Anunnaki. So what does that say?
I want you to hear this 15-20 second video on how they're preparing. You think aliens are this, but they're interdimensional beings, spiritual beings that they don't want to disclose to you. They want you guys to think that this is a alien.
We're kind of preparing the U.S. population, at least, and by extension, the world population into that reality, that there is a presence here. And that we need to explain this presence. Because if they show up and we continue to do what we did before, previous decades, and they show up, there will be mass panic.
Now, let's break this down. First, he says we are preparing the U.S. population, which means guiding, indoctrinating, controlling the narrative. Hope you get that. Then he says the presence that is here. The word presence means the state or fact of existing, occurring, or being present in a place or thing. A person or thing that exists, or its presence in a place but is not seen. Are you understanding? So we got preparing and a presence. See that? That's what a lot of people, which is indoctrination, guided what they think aliens are. And no. That's not interdimensional. Why is he saying? There's only one person that I ever hear speak of these aliens as interdimensional, and that's the man from Blink-182, ironically. And I believe he's the one that's more true than anything. But you gotta listen to the verbiage. They tell you without telling you. We have to guide, we have to prepare the population. So remember, and then you start adding all the projects. Blue beam, high jump, fishbowl, and then you start really seeing what's going on. A presence that is unseen, that has been here many times. Put it together. You see,
Shout out to Toxic But True Reality. I agree. Yeah, in what way are they preparing us?
In 1947, I just want to kind of lay a foundation about our America. The Cave of Qumran, you know that. That's where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. And that's where the Book of Enoch. This is where the Book of the Giants was found. Now, the Book of the Giants, which is this book, I highly suggest y'all get this, because the stuff that's in here is insane. Okay, the Book of the Giants. This used to be alongside the Book of Enoch, but they separated them. So it used to be with the Book of Enoch. And I don't know why they separated them. I didn't find out why they separated them. But it was found in the Cave of Qumran in 1947, and I'm going, 1947? Didn't Roswell happen in 1947? What is the coincidence of Roswell and them finding all these books about these extraterrestrials? Because this is what it literally says, they're extraterrestrials in this book. Roswell happened in 1947, and they just so happened to find all these lost books of information that they tried to hide from us in 1947. What a weird coincidence. The CIA was created that same year. The CIA was created, the Department of Defense was created, the Joint Chiefs of Staff was created, the National Security Council was created. All of a sudden, all hell broke loose. And now you know, they knew something, they know. Everybody knows in the government, the higher-ups know that these entities are real. They were trying to hide it. They lied to us. So it starts off, and now in Numbers, in the book of Numbers in the Bible, it says in chapter 13, verse 33, we saw the Nephilim there. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. So that's after the flood. So they're basically saying, yeah, they were still here. They were supposed to be destroyed in the flood, but somehow they came back. That's interesting, okay? So these passages suggest that the concept of giants was present in Jewish society, and the ideas expressed in the Book of Giants was somewhat accepted. Everybody knew it wasn't a big deal back then. Everybody knew that was a normal thing. But until the further we get along into our generation, they're trying to hide it. They don't want us to know. And the Book of Giants, didn't just find one copy or two copies. The Book of the Giants is the most copies of any book they've ever found. That's the main book that they found so many copies of. They're just like, what's going on? Why are we finding so many copies of this book? They found an Aramaic copy, And then they found this one called the Manichaean copy, which is a prophet that also dug into the information and even took it even a little bit further. And this has all been predated way before the books of the Bible. Even though they were found in the book with the books of the Bible, they were carbon dated and they matched up with the books of the Bible. Just you got to listen. The Book of the Giants begins with Elohim witnessing the depravity on earth and commanding 220 angels referred to as the Watchers to descend and guide humanity. Like I said, they're guardians, okay? Led by Azazel and Shemyaza, these angels form a council of 20 and begin teaching humanity. However, after being seduced by women from the Canaanite tribe, descendants of the first murderer, Cain, the angels take on physical form. Each of the 200 angels marries a woman and starts a family. Their children, known as the Nephilim, are enormous beings with a voracious appetite. As these Nephilim settle in cities, they turn against those who try to feed them, eventually resorting to cannibalism. They start fights among themselves and drag the rest of humanity into their conflicts. Shortly after these extraterrestrial beings, this is in the book, the Watchers eventually realize they are confined. Okay, wait a minute. Shortly after these extraterrestrial beings arrive on Earth, so they came from somewhere else, and there's so many, think of all the cultures that talk about some beings coming from the stars and coming down and teaching us stuff, okay? After these extraterrestrial beings arrive on Earth, an ecological catastrophe seems to ensue. The Watchers eventually realize they are confined to their physical forms and can no longer exist as spirits. After pleading for forgiveness, Elohim condemns them through his messenger Enoch. Elohim had previously instructed that women were not to have husbands among the angels, and those who disobeyed would face judgment. Although the giants were born of wickedness and lacked free will, Elohim shows that their offspring can still be saved despite their pleas for forgiveness. This blew me away because I'm going, wait a minute. He's basically saying, okay, you guys did this act. You're getting condemned. You are not getting forgiveness, but the offspring, they can't help it. It's not their fault that this happened. They're going to get a chance to be saved, which makes me believe, like I said before, and I've been teaching that the Rh negative people that they can't find the DNA from, they don't know where this DNA and all this from, that DNA has passed down through. Like I said before, it doesn't matter. That's why I'm telling you, when I've watched all these documentaries that they're swearing up and down that they truly believe that's where the DNA has come from. They came from the Nephilim. Okay? All the Rh negative people are on here. They truly believe that that's what it's coming from. Okay? Because they've done everything under their power and done all this DNA testing on all the different nationalities, the cultures, and they can't trace it to any certain area. They don't match up. And that goes along, that's what I'm talking about with the 2.5% of the population of the earth, which is 8 billion something people. 2.5% of that 8 billion of people have DNA. They're just like, who are these people? And a lot of them have the Rh negative, and they have the mutations in the recessive genes and stuff that they can't really define where they come from. Okay, and that can be anybody it could be anybody, but we know definitely it's the Rh negative people. That's what they're saying. Okay, they definitely saying it's the Rh. They know it's the Rh negative people, but also people who aren't Rh negative can also have this DNA. They found that they also have the same DNA that they can't seem to find where they're coming from. So he's saying they have, they can have forgiveness. Elohim becomes concerned that the pure genetic makeup of humanity may soon be destroyed and corrupted by this tainted DNA. This is in the book. According to Enoch's prophecy, the earth will continue to destroy itself, and the Nephilim will ultimately be consigned to hell. Furthermore, it becomes evident that the Watchers also used animals to father offspring, further corrupting pure DNA and resulting in the creation of animal-angel hybrids, cryptids, Bigfoot, all these animals, the Mothman, all these things that people are seeing that they don't know where the heck they come from. All over the world, people have seen these weird creatures and stuff. Everybody thinks they're crazy. I've seen it. I've seen these things, and I'm not crazy. And my eyes are 20/20. So you can't say that all these millions of people are insane and they're seeing things.
1947 was more important than I thought. Shout out to Green Eyed Angel 35. I definitely got to get this book, The Book of the Giants.
Ani nemůžu se podívat dovnitř. Mimozemštění přiletěli.
Esto fue lo que mis papás grabaron en el Seibo, frontera Guatemala-México, las 5:30 am. ¿Qué crees que podría ser ese objeto luminoso?
That guy was looking to see him. It was like something cut through it.
Oh my goodness, people in Washington, D.C. are starting to freak out after an ex-Air Force officer took this video of all these UFOs hovering over the Capitol in D.C. That's not even the craziest part. People are speculating, big people are speculating, that the extraterrestrials are trying to plan a coup up against us. And that's still not even the craziest part. By the way, have you seen any of these lately in the sky? Because they've been everywhere every day for months. The New York Times says it's already happening. And allegedly the CIA is saying a whole bunch of extraterrestrials are walking around with us looking just like us in human skin.
CIA currently estimates that on planet Earth there are now 30 million ET-human hybrids on our planet.
And for anybody that thinks they're still projections, they're literally biological beings created by the fallen angels and mankind to hold the spirits of demons.
Nothing in the sky at all. Then all of a sudden, bam! What is that?
Whoa, what was that? I'm hoping it's CGI. Shout outs to the Real Moon Henry. Man, I gotta look more into this.
People are losing their minds trying to figure out what this thing is. The ancient Egyptian Sabu, or Schist disc, is a meticulously designed 5,000-year-old artifact that's just impractical for just about every explanation they've tried to force on it. And a tour guide at the Cairo Museum claims it's part of a lost technology that he saw with his own eyes. Carved from a single piece of rock, this disc was found in the First Dynasty tomb of Prince Sabu, dating it way back to the Old Kingdom around 3000 BC. That's 5,000 years old, one of the oldest Egyptian artifacts ever found, but many claim it's even older than that, inherited by the First Dynasty from much longer ago, because it doesn't quite match anything else found from that same period. Measuring about 2 feet in diameter, it's made from a fairly brittle stone called schist, and no one can rightfully explain why it's shaped the way it is. Never mind it being carved from a single piece of stone, allegedly using the most primitive tools imaginable from the earliest days of Egypt. We also have no idea how they even made this thing in the first place. A circle with 3 fins curving inward that get as thin as 1/5 of an inch, that's half a centimeter thick at the tips, surrounded by 3 equal gaps and a center hole, which clearly looks like it was intended to be mounted onto something to spin, possibly part of a larger mechanism. It was found completely broken apart, so what we're seeing here is the reassembled artifact stored at the Cairo Museum. They've tried explaining it with everything in the book, calling it a flower vase, a candle holder, or even an ornamental bowl. Yeah, can't wait to eat my cereal out of that thing. None of these descriptions quite make any sense. Like, why on earth would anyone go to the incredible length of designing such a difficult object, mind you using their most primitive tools as this was from the First Dynasty, possibly earlier, into a complex shape that just isn't practical for any of these proposed purposes? The debunkers will tell you, oh, they were just incredible craftsmen and they carved this design because they just felt like it, and if you question it, you're disrespecting history. Look, this is a vase from around the same era, and although it's equally impressive to carve something like this out of granite, which I actually made another video on it, you can see it looks like a vase. Here's a bowl, which also looks like what we expect it to, practical for its intended purpose. Not to mention, Egyptian artifacts from later eras became considerably less sophisticated as time went on, so did they just forget how to carve intricate designs like this? Or did the First Dynasty Egyptians find this disc from people that existed before them? The real ancient vases, bowls, and urns were all built with clear practical uses in mind, whereas the schist disc almost looks like it was part of something else. Perhaps a mechanical gear of sorts, a piece of ancient technology lost to time, as there are other Egyptian artifacts that look almost exactly like gears. Maybe something like these were used in combination with the schist disc. Others have even gone to the length of recreating exact replicas of the disc themselves to experiment on, and found out that when a bit of air pressure is applied, it actually surprisingly spins pretty effectively. Maybe it was part of a forgotten timekeeping or star tracking device similar to the Antikythera mechanism of the Greeks. But still, there are others who claim there is a far, far more advanced purpose for this disc. Funny old world host Johanna James tells a story a tour guide told her while taking her through the Cairo Museum, who says his father, Abdel Hakim Youssef, was allegedly part of a team experimenting on this very disc back in the 80s. They made a 1-to-1 replica of it, stuck it on a rotating spindle, and spun it around real fast while blasting it with specific sound frequencies. All of this the tour guide claims to have seen with his own eyes. After a while of fine-tuning the frequencies projected onto the disc, what appeared to be an infinity symbol of pure energy formed around it. When they threw water and other small stones at it, they would be caught in an anti-gravitational force field that defied physics. The stones and even the water droplets they threw into this force field would be briefly suspended in mid-air around this energy field before falling to the ground. And they repeated this many times with different objects and elements, each of them briefly hovering around the disc with no known explanation. Yes, you heard it here, so it must be true. An ancient anti-gravity device. Can't wait for the debunkers to clip that soundbite. Nah, if this actually happened, it would be all over the news. Everyone in the scientific community would obviously be talking about it. Oh, that's adorable. History has a long pattern of silencing those who propose clean and easily accessible forms of energy that don't support the oil and gas industrial complex, like zero-point energy. But don't worry, that's all totally fake and for entertainment purposes only. At the end of the day, even if it wasn't made for anti-gravity levitation, but something more innocent, like, I don't know, a mechanical water irrigation system, still, how in the world did they make this?
How they made it? That's a good question. It looks like a rim from a 93 Honda Civic. Shout out to Phil Spixel.
Ancient Egypt, Greek mythology, UFOs, biblical and modern day giants, and even mermaids all go back to the fallen angels, and you and I have been lied to about it all. Now for this video, we're going to go back to where this all started, Genesis 6:4, when the fallen angels mated with the women on earth. And we're going to explain this because there is a lot of confusion about how angels reproduced. Genesis 6:4, there were giants on the earth in those days and also afterward when the sons of God, angels, came into the daughters of men, humans, and they bore children to them. They were the mighty men who are of old, men of renown. New International Version is more literal. It says the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterwards. We get the word giant from the root word nephal, which is the singular of Nephilim. Nephilim is the plural of nephal. It means to fall. So Nephilim means the fallen ones. Jude 6 explains this further. He says, and the angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. Now, angels have free will, just like you and I do. So there were angels that left their proper domain. They left the power of God. They left heaven, followed Satan. Out of that group of angels that were following Satan, there were angels that were watching the women on earth. They decided they had to have them. So those angels, out of the whole group, those angels left the spiritual realm, came down, took a physical form in our 3D dimension. They left their dimension, came into ours in physical form, and mated with the women on earth. Book of Enoch explains this even further. You being spiritual, holy, and possessing a life which is eternal, obviously talking about the sons of God, the angels, have polluted yourselves with women, have begotten in carnal blood, have lusted in the blood of men, and have done as those who are flesh and blood do. Now the top is a little cut off. This is talking about the giants. So this is the fallen angels' offspring. Now the giants who have been born of spirit and of flesh shall be called upon earth evil spirits, and on earth shall be their habitation. Now, evil spirits shall proceed from their flesh because they were created from above. From the holy watchers was their beginning and primary foundation. Evil spirits shall they be upon earth, and the spirits of the wicked shall they be called. The habitation of the spirits of heaven shall be in heaven, but upon earth shall be the habitation of terrestrial spirits who are born on earth. Now, how does that relate to these guys, these, or even mermaids? For this, we go to the book of Enoch, and we will get into UFOs here in a second. First, we have to establish what exactly was going on before the flood. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives. This was not a mutual thing. Adam and Eve were perfect. They were the epitome of beauty. So their offspring were all beautiful human beings. So the women on earth at that time were absolutely gorgeous. So the fallen angels saw them, had to have them. They departed from their spiritual realm, came into the 3D realm, took physical form, and essentially graped the women, and the women gave birth to giants. Number 2, and they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. This even plays into the giants we see today. This was in 2002. This is the Kandahar giant. I will do a video on this soon. They are still walking the earth today, and they are cannibalistic. Down here, number 5, and they began to sin against birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Because angels were not meant to reproduce. When they utilized their free will, followed the epitome of evil, Satan, things happened that were not supposed to happen. It corrupted mankind. It corrupted the lineage of creation. This is why we see things like this or this. I mean, there was evil beyond evil. There was deplorable things walking the earth, and Noah and his sons were the only genetically pure beings left on the earth. The entire earth was filled with this. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Stay with me. So back in Jude, we see the consequence to what happened to the angels, because our God is a just God. So the angels that decided to mate with the women, they were cast into chains. They were cast into hell. Now, Jews in Jesus' time commonly referred to demons as Tamu Nephal, which means dead Nephal or dead Nephilim. Demons are the disembodied spirits of the dead Nephilim. When God flooded the entire earth, it wiped out all of the flesh. The spirits remained. God tells us that demonic spirits need a host. They are like parasites. They need a house to inhabit. They need a body to possess. Now we know after the flood, it did not take long at all before evil was on the rise again. Why? Because the spirits of the Nephilim still remained on earth. How this all played out after the flood, how giants walk the earth again, there is no clear answer to. It is a possibility that Noah's daughters-in-law did not have a pure bloodline, so their offspring paired up with the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim gave rise to the giants. It gave rise to all of that evil again. We do know for certain is there were giants on those earth in those days and also afterwards. So God is very clear that it started right up again. Now this brings us to the UFOs, because as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be in the Son of Man. Aliens are the fallen angels, and they are here attempting to do the exact same thing they did before the flood. The earliest well-known UFO abduction was in 1957, and if you and I know anything, that means that it had been going on well before that. This is what they want us to know. Boas underwent what he described as medical examinations. He claimed to have had physical samples taken, hair, blood, and skin scrapings. Interaction, here it is. He also reported an interaction with a female alien, which resulted in what he believed was an attempt at reproduction. What's interesting is every single UFO account, abduction account, there is always some kind of sexual interaction because the fallen angels are attempting to reproduce with man. And this is why we have giants walking the earth and have always had giants walking the earth. Satan has always been trying to corrupt mankind because you and I are made in the image of God, and he literally hates us for it. All of this leads to this, the rapture of the church. It is going to be in the near future, any single second now. It could be this evening, it could be next year, it could be 5 years from now. I don't know, but it is soon. And it is going to be in a single second when millions of believers in Jesus Christ will be removed from this earth and we are taken home to heaven. However, the government will come in, the world will come in and try to explain this event because they can't come in and tell you that God took us home to heaven and, well, you're left on your own. So what are they going to do? They're going to say that we were abducted by aliens and those left behind are the chosen ones. A perfect way to unite the world. What a perfect way to usher in world peace. What a perfect way to usher in a one world system, one world government, one world religion. They already have the statement ready because they have been preparing for this for years. Just like true believers know that we are in the season, Satan knows we are in the season. And that's why we are seeing such an influx of UFOs and alien discussion, because he has his little minions, his fallen angels ready, and they are circulating. So once the church is removed, we go up, they come down.
Maybe the only way to unite this incredibly divided world of ours. They're out there. We better think of how all the differences among people on earth would seem small if we felt threatened by a space invader. That's the whole theory of independence.
You're right.
Everybody gets together and makes nice.
This is very fascinating stuff right here. Shout out to Ashley Hayes 2.0.
Just wait till the pagans find out that all their paganism is about Jesus Christ to begin with. Most people have no idea that the Norse, the Germans, the French, the Belgians, the English, they're not originally from Europe. And when they arrived, to be sure, they brought their religion with them. When the Germanic tribes arrived in Europe and conquered the people that were there. Tuatha Danann, do you know that that literally means the tribe of Dan? The Tuatha Danann, without any stretch of anything at all, just by definition, are the tribe of Dan when they arrived in Ireland. From where? They came from the Levant, via the Mediterranean. Look how far Europe ain't. Now I know academia is going to try to crap all over everything I say, and anyone who subscribes to that tomfoolery will parrot. But unfortunately for them, I'm not making any of this up whatsoever. Now the word Phoenician here is terribly misleading because that ain't what they called themselves. That's what the Greeks called them. Once more, Phoenicia is the land of Canaan. Now a funny thing happened in the land of Canaan about 1400-ish BC, and this is absolutely confirmed by archaeology and history. The Egyptians record all of this themselves, and you can look that up and see that I'm not making it up. You see, in 1400-ish BC, there was a new people came into the land of Canaan and conquered it. And these were known by the Egyptian as the wandering tribes of Hebrews, because they wandered in the desert for 40 years. After they were definitely let free from captivity from Egypt. How do I know that? Well, it's an interesting thing where your paganisms come from, you see. Most people just don't know. That Amun-Ra, the Most High God, was added to the Egyptian pantheon right around 1450 BC. Who introduced Egypt to the Most High God? That would be Moses. How do we know that the biblical story of the Exodus is true? Well, Egypt added a new god to their pantheon that was higher than all the gods in their pantheon, folks. Come on now. Wait, I thought the Tuatha Danann were Egyptians. Nah, they came out of slavery from Egypt. A nation that was born out of slavery from Egypt. A nation that did not exist until the Egyptians took them slaves, grew that baby in that womb, nurtured that seed in that dirt, so that it could be born a new nation. That's how these things work on earth, though people blame God that he forges swords in fires. Where else are you going to forge them? So to be sure, I'm talking about the Rus, Vikings, the Russians, modern Russians. I'm talking about the Celts and the Druids. I'm talking about the Anglo-Saxons and the Norse. The pagan mythologies of these people are not European in origin, because all these peoples come from the Levant. Now, to be sure, they definitely conquered the people that were living there when they got there. They definitely mixed in, took wives and such, colonized them. The Germanic tribes came from Israel and conquered Europe. Did you hear me? Because the land of Canaan definitely became the nation of Israel right around 1400 BC. This is recorded. Tel Dan has been excavated. This archaeological site absolutely without a doubt confirming King Solomon, King David, the split between the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. In Judges 18, the tribe of Dan goes north to the city of Laish to conquer it. The Bible is proven historically accurate all the way back to 1400 BC. Did it. Laish is named Tel Dan to this day. The city of Dan, where they held one of the golden calves as a site for worship because they couldn't go to Jerusalem because they were at war with Judah. A lot of people don't even know all that biblical history about how it all shook down, or why they're all called Jews today after the tribe of Judah. What happened to the other 11 tribes? Read the Old Testament. Or a history book. The Bible's all fairy tales. You're going to be sore disappointed carrying all that around. Speaking of where your paganisms come from, and we're talking that of the Norse and that of the Russians, and that of the English, and that of the Germans, and the French, and the Belgians, and the Romanians, and the Ukrainians, and all of them came from Israel. And the religion they brought with them is recorded as being born into the world for the first time in 1400 BC as Judges 18. On the way to conquer this city, Laish, the tribe of Dan stopped at Micah's house of gods and took the pre-flood religion, the post-flood religion of the Sumerians and the Babylonians, and a Levite priest, that's the Torah, mixed it all into a new religion, and then conquered Europe with it. They also revived Assyria with it. They revived Babylon with it. They went into the Indus Valley with it, wrote the Vedas, that's what it is. Because Laish is right here on the Silk Road to China. And also they could sail much further in their boats than the Canaanites could. And so they did. Wait, which of the tribes of Israel had ships for sailing? That'd be the tribe of Dan. And so the paganism we're all familiar with, here, let me tell you one more time. It's the pre-flood religion mixed with the Babylonian Sumerian religion mixed with the Torah. So where could these ideas possibly have come from? Well, let's start with that pre-flood religion. There was a worldwide civilization on a supercontinent filled with nations. The stars themselves are super intelligent, immortal angels, celestial beings. They have souls. Well, those fellas quit their positions in heaven, and I mean their bodies. You could kind of think of this as like abandoning yourself on the couch for hours while you play video games in that lower reality. Well, these way more intelligent than you immortal beings who can manipulate reality far beyond manufacturing video games, they abandoned their estates and came down to the earth. Why? Where'd they get this idea from? I thought that was God himself's plan. Oh. Trying to be like Daddy, I see. So let me say it real clear to the 50 of you still watching. The gods of the pre-flood, antediluvian world, worldwide civilization, are stars that quit their bodies to come down to the earth and mate with women, so the pantheon includes their offspring. The planets were angels who quit their bodies to come to the earth to mate with women and be gods. When God flooded the earth, he killed all of their offspring. Those are the demons now. But he bound the angels up in everlasting chains and threw them into hell. That's why people made statues of them. Clearly, they are not here anymore. They are in hell. Their children are disembodied, unclean spirits. But did one of their descendants survive the flood? Yes. Who was it? Ham's wife. And so the religion survived the flood as well. Ham and his wife passed it down to their children, this religion specifically. And that is the religion of the Babylonians and the Sumerians and the Egyptians. So Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives all got off the boat. Ham's descendants are Egypt, Babylon, and Samaria. Enter Nimrod and his wife Semiramis, the first emperor and empress under that religion on the earth after the flood. They add themselves and their offspring to the pantheon. Oops, Nimrod died. They bring the idea of reincarnation into the world. Don't worry, he survives. He is born again as his son Tammuz, you see. Where'd they get the idea of being born again from? All pagan religion, even from the get-go, is about God himself. It's just that some tried to be him and added their names to the story, you see. And when they got thrown in hell and the earth got flooded and reset, well, their names survived because 2 of the people on that boat followed that religion. We know that because they passed it down to their children, who made it about themselves, added their own names to the pantheon, being literally descended from the gods, to justify ruling over and oppressing the people with colonization and empires. Colonization started with Nimrod. Don't mind me, I'm preaching. I ain't putting on, this is what happens when I do. So the first religion that spread after the flood was the religion of the antediluvian world, angel worship, fallen angel worship, and Nimrod claimed to be the reincarnation of these dead gods. And when he dies, well, we know that the Father plans on manifesting as the Son, right? And so they stole that story so that their offspring could be your gods and emperors and kings and queens. Dynasties. Where'd they get that idea from? God. Where does any idea come from? It's just lower beings pretending and trying to be God. Whether you're talking about men or planets, which means wandering stars, or the offsprings of dead angels, created things trying to be God, who himself planned to manifest in the flesh from the get-go, from the start. First prophecies right there in the Garden of Eden, as Adam and Eve were getting kicked out anyway. But in 1400 BC, the Hebrews conquered Canaan. And the tribe of Dan formed a new religion from the pre-flood religion, the post-flood religion, and the Torah, which contained prophecies of Jesus Christ. And none of this symbolism is any kind of mystery to me, nor should it be to anyone at this point. And that new religion, definitely named in Judges 18, is Zoroastrianism. It's Druidism. It's Hinduism, Norse mythology, the mythology of all the Germanic tribes, China, Japan. The similarity in these mythologies are all very specific for a reason. They're all the same one. Integrated into different places politically with colonization. They found it far more efficient to mix in rather than totally re-educate. And everywhere they landed held one of those first 2 religions already, making it easy to integrate the new one. Wise as serpents they were. Tribe of Dan with that new religion collapsed the Bronze Age. And I didn't make up any of that at all, and I didn't even have to reach for it. They already dug it up.
Yeah, that's another book that's got to be added to the collection for real. Shout out to Dead Hidden. It's crazy. It's along the same lines what Ashley Hayes 2.0 was talking about. How they left their how they left their celestial bodies and came down to earth. It's crazy.
To make sure our nutrients are making our food and our nutrients everybody eat, make sure that we good. I say thank you for having all of us here gathered today at this table. As people don't make it to Thanksgiving, you know. But I can't even focus.
Dear Heavenly Father, first and foremost, I want to thank you for the food we about to receive, but I want to tell you that you probably need to pay some serious attention to the other end of the table, maybe throw whatever world of
something a little extra.
Yeah, just also we got some people here that are struggling with weight that shouldn't be here at Thanksgiving. Some people should have took this day off. Drewski. Right? I think that,
I mean, you didn't have to say my name.
well, it's my prayer, so you can say your own.
Yeah.
I also think that, you know, we need to be thankful for so much. And in this case, I'm with a strong group of people because, you know, looks ain't it around here. It ain't a batch of attractive. These some strong-faced gentlemen, right? They all got the short end of the stick. For them to be ugly and cool, I think is dope. Right, Willie? Right? You said it. You said it. You said they some ugly motherfuckers when I saw you in that bed.
Kai Cenat is facing backlash after being tricked into taking part in a disturbing stunt in front of 600,000 subscribers. Magician Max's trick caused outrage as it appeared to show him hanging as a result of Cenat pulling a red cord, which the magician claims to have influenced him to pull. Since the trick, Kai has been unfollowed by major brands and personalities, leaving it unknown whether he'll be banned from Twitch altogether.
Diddy showed everybody who he was during making the band. Now Diddy's been hit with multiple different lawsuits alleging SA during the time of making the band. And there are multiple episodes that I just think about during making the band that literally gives me chills because Diddy was just horrible to these people. I mean, literally horrible. Now I think I really need to go back and rewatch every single episode of making the band. I will never forget when Diddy made the members of making the band walk 3 hours in winter to get him cheesecake.
You know something? I want me a piece of cheesecake. You know where to get the cheesecake spot is at? Yeah. And y'all can walk from here, get the cheesecake, see the city, enjoy the sights, would you? Show them around. Take him over the Brooklyn Bridge, let that wind hit him off the water. See how y'all feel as a group. It's not about me trying to do a mean-spirited initiation hazing act to them. It's a bigger picture to it. In the world of music, I gotta get up every day and do a bunch of that I don't want to do. I gotta bite my tongue and I gotta do it with a smile on my face. But I do want some cheesecake. So I'll see y'all in a little while. Take your time, enjoy it. You ain't really got nothing else to do. Fred, you alright? Fred, yeah, you alright? Fred, I'm good. This dude must be crazy. Sooner or later we gonna clash. Yeah, word and corner. My cheesecake. My cheesecake is in the least fit soft or brittle or not on point. Your will go back. Somebody gonna quit. Somebody ain't got the heart, the stamina to be bad. Somebody ain't got the passion, the drive, the intensity to want it. Somebody's mental capacity breaks at a certain point.
And then we literally had Freddie P, who was on that episode, come out and say that Diddy was assaulting multiple men during making the band. And he said that Diddy has done this several times. And he imagines that Diddy approaches these guys because they go through financial situations. And when they ain't hot no more, you fall back to people like him. He preys on you. It's a lot of rappers out here that have had secrets because they fell into these situations with Puffy. And I know this personally. Also, the episode with Lorianne Gibson where Diddy allegedly tried to hit her with a chair. In that episode, Diddy even told the cameraman to shut off the camera, so we actually didn't see this part happen, but Lorianne Gibson went to the New York Police Department and filed a complaint against Diddy.
It's only one person show. It ain't no interjection. I don't have a problem like that. But no. I'm not interjecting. Baby girl, I'm not taking no interjection. No, if you want to go, I'm not taking no interjection. Now I'm a psycho for real.
No, and so am I.
Get the fuck out there.
Right, with pleasure. Michael Bivens, you can't pick up 4 counts to 8 in one day, then what are we all doing here? I don't want to be a part of this. If you can't pick up 4 counts in one day, no, you disrespectful.
I'll turn the cameras off. You disrespectful.
You ain't your porn. Whatever. You don't scare me.
And we all witnessed in real time how shitty Diddy was to Aubrey O'Day, and there are things that she has still not talked about Diddy. And then when Dawn Richard filed her lawsuit against Diddy, it blew all of this wide open. Dawn Richard's lawsuit exposed so much. It talked about just how horrible it was to record for Diddy and how he would allegedly force them to record for 36 to 48 hours without breaks. It talked about seeing abuse of Cassie. It talked about her being violated allegedly by Diddy. And it also talked about Diddy throwing a party where he would fly in dozens of young women and girls, some who appeared to be underage. And she alleged that when these women arrived, they were wearing little to no clothing and they were given substances and alcohol, and many of them appeared to be lethargic or passed out while Diddy and his guests performed essay on them. She quoted Diddy saying, "This is a buffet. Enjoy yourselves. This is what we do. This is how we party." Once the stuff with Diddy started happening, I felt in my heart that we were going to see people from the Making the Band era coming out because Diddy was so unhinged. And now that we're getting more and more lawsuits making allegations of things happening to them during the Making the Band era, and it's literally mentioned in multiple people's lawsuits, I need to go back and I need to rewatch every single episode. But y'all let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.
What's crazy is that you can line up the lawsuits with the footage from the show. That's crazy. Shout out to Khadisha Lynn. That was eye-opening right there. I ain't see that show in years since it came out way back then. To see it now, it's like, whoa, this didn't age well at all.
I really believe we've had a timeline jump, alright? I'm going to show you damning evidence on the release date of a movie called Wicked that stated it was releasing on Thanksgiving, which we all know it released on the 22nd, which is the Black Friday after the supposed Thanksgiving, but we celebrated it on the 28th, the last week of the month. This movie poster under here says Thanksgiving. When I'm done publishing this video, open up the pinch of that picture and you will see it says Thanksgiving when it's released. The date of the release is November 22nd, 2024, which would be that Friday after the supposed Thanksgiving. Oh, we celebrated Thanksgiving on the 29th. It's 2023. It's never the last week. And it was celebrated on the 23rd of this year, 2023. But, what? What? You started fucking around with the fucking around? Where are we? What's going on? What, was Thanksgiving supposed to be the 21st? But, it got changed. Someone needs to stop fucking around. This is weird. I can't believe I didn't even recognize this until now. Has there ever been a celebration of Thanksgiving with 2 days left in the month? Ever? Peace to God.
Now that was really smart. See what day it fell on last year. Shout out to Toxic But True Reality. Now that's a great question. What's going on here?
America. Costco has just recalled over 250,000 eggs due to a potential salmonella contamination. Here we go again. So Handsome Brook Farm voluntarily recalled 10,800 units of organic pasteurized raised 24-count eggs sold under the Kirkland Signature brand at Costco. That's right, people, those 24-count Kirkland eggs that Costco sells like crazy. The recalled eggs were distributed to 25 Costco stores in Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee, beginning on November 22nd. And of course, like I said, they're the ones that are in the plastic carton with 24 count. Now, if you didn't know, salmonella is a bacteria that can make people very sick. Signs of salmonella poisoning include diarrhea, fever, stomach cramps, dehydration. They usually start 6 hours to 6 days after exposure to the bacteria. And most people will recover without any treatment after 4 to 7 days. But it's still a nightmare. If you have these recalled eggs, return them to Costco immediately for a full refund. Of all the things that Costco sells, it had to be the eggs. And those eggs are a hot sell because they're a good deal. So like I said, check those refrigerators. If you have them, return them immediately. Are these contaminations ever going to end?
Welcome to part 2 of the real reason that we invaded Iraq, because you and I have been lied to our entire lives. In part 1, we talked about how an archaeologist discovered the ancient city of Uruk in modern-day Iraq, and then he discovered the tomb of Gilgamesh, and coincidentally, a few months after, we invaded Iraq. Well, buckle up, because this goes so much deeper than just his tomb. Now for this video, we have to go back to the days immediately following the flood, and this brings us to Genesis 10. Genesis 10 is the genealogy of Noah. Genesis 10:1 tells us that the 3 sons of Noah were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Down it says Ham had Cush, and then Cush had Nimrod. So Nimrod in the Bible is Noah's great-grandson. Now why am I talking about Nimrod? Because Nimrod is Gilgamesh. In the Bible, we learn that Nimrod established a very large kingdom. He was essentially the first king of the world, and it also says that he ruled over all of the other sons of Noah. Now, because of this, there were many different peoples that would write about Nimrod. It was their personal account of who Nimrod was. The Babylonians wrote about him, the Assyrians wrote about him, the Hittites wrote about him. It says even in Palestine, tablets have been found with this man's name on them. He was obviously the most popular hero in the ancient Near East. And of course, the Sumerians wrote about him in the Epic of Gilgamesh. We go back to Genesis 10 to find out about Nimrod's kingdom. This is Genesis 10:8. And it says up at the top, he began to be a mighty one on the earth. We'll go back to that verse later. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Verse 10. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. That's southern Mesopotamia. From that land, he went to Assyria and built Nineveh, and there's more. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce them. Let's bring that verse to life a little bit. Here is a visual of Nimrod's kingdom. Down here, we have the Tower of Babel. We have Uruk, where he was found, or Erech in the Bible. The city of Ur, which is actually where Abraham was born, and then the land of Shinar. So pretty large kingdom. We're going to go back to Genesis 10:8 because it says he began to be a mighty one on the earth. This is the exact same phrase that God uses when he describes the giants in Genesis 6. So it says, there were giants on the earth in those days and also afterwards. So God is specifically telling us that the giants, these demonic hybrid beings, survived the flood. When the sons of God came into the daughters of man and they bore children to them, those were mighty men who were of old, men of renown. The Greek origin of the words describing Nimrod are exactly the same as the Greek origin of the words God used to describe the giants in Genesis 6. It is worth mentioning that the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament, also says that Nimrod began to be a giant upon the earth. Now, Nimrod is talked a lot about in the book of Jasher, in the Apocrypha. And before anybody comes for me and says that we shouldn't read the Apocrypha, this is in the Bible, Joshua 10. Is it not written in the book of Jasher? 2 Samuel 1. Indeed, it is written in the book of Jasher. The authors of the Bible are referring us to other additional sources so we can find out additional information. Back to Jasher, it says, and they brought him offerings, and he became their lord and king, and they all dwelt with him in the city of Shinar, and Nimrod reigned over the earth and over all the sons of Noah. And they were all under his power and counsel. And all the earth was of one tongue, we know this, and words of union, but Nimrod did not go in the ways of the Lord. Here's what's interesting. He was more wicked than all the men that were before him from the days of the flood until those days. And when you read about Nimrod, this guy was disgusting. He was wicked. He was perverted. He mated with animals all the time because he couldn't control himself. He was absolutely deplorable. Now, Nimrod actually wore the garments that Adam and Eve wore in the Garden of Eden. They were passed down to Noah, who kept them on the ark, and then he passed them down to his sons, and then obviously his sons passed them down to Nimrod. And it says here, he gave them those garments through the love for him, and Nimrod grew up, and when he was 20 years old, he put on the garments. And Nimrod became strong when he put on the garments, and God gave him might and strength, and he was a mighty hunter in the earth. Yes, he was a mighty hunter in the field, and he hunted the animals, and he built altars, and he offered the animals on them before the Lord. Now, there is no written explanation for how Nimrod became Nephilim, how he became a demonic giant. So this is my personal conclusion based upon what I've read. We know that Nimrod, when he was ruling, he did not go in the ways of the Lord. He was more wicked than all the other men. But in his early life, he was obedient to the Lord. And when he put on the garments from Adam and Eve, God gave him power and might. So I think that all just got to his head. I think as he aged, he started to abandon the Lord and he started to serve Satan. And what does Satan do? He takes everything that is God's and he twists it in his own perverse and evil way. So I think as Nimrod started to serve Satan, Satan used that power that God had given him and somehow transformed him into this Nephilim, into this demonic giant and a completely wicked, horrible, grotesque man. Now, because he was Nephilim, he had access to Nephilim technology. And this is where we get into the conversation of the Stargate, which is a demonic portal. This is where it gets kind of crazy. And I know this is going to be a lot to take in for some people, but y'all, the truth is that we live in a spiritual world. There are angels and demons all around us at all times. They're just in a different dimension than ours. So beings like Nimrod, who were almost 2/3 demon, had access to all of this demonic technology that was beyond what we could even imagine. Now, this brings us to the ziggurat of Ur, which is located in modern day Iraq. Now, this is just an artist's depiction of what we think it might have looked like. This is what remains, and it was believed to have a Stargate buried underneath. This is pretty much what they look like. It's a portal to another dimension. And so all of the demonic rulers, in the ancient civilizations, they had access to all this. They had this technology, and God tells us this in the Bible. And so when that archaeologist found the tomb, found the city of Uruk, that's a red alert for our government because there's a lot of fallen angels that rule this world, and they are in power in our world. I'm not going to say any more than that. So when they got word of Gilgamesh or Nimrod, they knew what they were looking for. But who was in their way? Saddam Hussein. Because Saddam actually thought that he was a reincarnated version of Nebuchadnezzar. In the 1980s, during the Iran-Iraq War, Saddam Hussein became obsessed with the Babylonian ruler Nebuchadnezzar. Saddam saw himself as a modern reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar, and to prove it, he spent millions building a massive reconstruction of Babylon. In addition, he actually tried to reconstruct the ziggurat of Ur. So that means that he had the technology to the Stargate that was known to be below. Hussein either was able to get the Stargate working or learned something important from it, and Big Daddy America got concerned. The Bush administration recognized that Hussein had some very, very valuable, relevant information concerning the ancient history of the planet, either technology or text basically confirming this, and he was going to release this to the public. I think that was a big part of the reason why the Bush administration went into Iraq, to stop him from revealing this information and to also, of course, this is what I think, control it themselves. Now, all of this sounds crazy until you actually do some digging and you find on the CIA's website a project called Stargate. Now, this goes back many, many years because there are many Stargates all around the world. This document obviously is from 1993 and it covers the discussion of paranormal activity. The investigations described in this report involve a class of human capabilities generally referred to as parapsychological or paranormal phenomena. There are two general types, informational and energetic. There's a lot of weird stuff in this report, and it takes some time to read through, but you can find it yourself on CIA.gov. There's this story as well from 1928. You can find this on TikTok. This man was digging underneath Egyptian pyramids. He found a Stargate, went through it, and he actually brought people with him. Time was different. So he thought he was gone for only like an hour, but he was gone for 3 days. So when he went through the Stargate or the portal, he actually went back in time to when the pyramids were being built. And he saw UFOs carrying the stones for the pyramids. He saw giants, he saw aliens, he saw Nephilim, he saw all of it. And he said it was beautiful and lush and green. And he actually saw conveyor belts. I mean, they had electricity, they had power, they had technology back then from demons. And there's many stories like this, actually. There are Stargates all over our world because our world was inhabited by demons and demonic technology. And we have pyramids all over the world. And it is no coincidence that America, part of the Grand Canyon is closed off. A lot of national parks are closed off to the public. And it's a huge reason why we are lied to, because it goes back to the Bible. So we all know what a Stargate looks like, right? It's a portal. And we also know that our government went into Iraq and took the Stargate that was under the ziggurat of Ur. This is CERN.
And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed tonight's rabbit hole. And if you haven't already, please take a second
just to smash that like, subscribe, ring that notification bell,
just to make sure the algorithm knows what's up. So what we're gonna do, y'all? That's right. Run these numbers up. Thanks again. Till next time.